In this video, we're going to cross-compare my snowboarding technique to that of the best snowboarders in the world to figure out what kind of micro differences they're making by letting them achieve such a high level of finesse, control, and so much power. And you're going to see some absolutely ridiculous tricks in this video, but these principles are applicable to any level of snowboarding, be it 360s all the way up to 1900s. What these guys are doing, we want to study, learn from, and incorporate into our own riding because we're doing it for a very particular reason. So with that out of the way, let's go and jump right into this breakdown. Starting with some backside rotations. Here we have two very similar forms. I'm on the left, maybe obviously, and I'm doing a backside 16 compared to a different backside 16, and we're just going to see what kind of changes we can notice. So first, coming up through the spoon of the jump, and the first thing I want to point out is look at how much more exaggerated my position is for the heel edge. This isn't too ideal because it's going to make it so you have more weight sort of in this A-frame, and it's going to be hard to be balanced. So being a little bit taller here is going to be really crucial and something I want to really implement into my riding. And this leaned over motion is going to cause this right here. See how my board is going and starting a little bit more of an angle towards the corner? So I'm coming in with a straight edge, and then it's cutting last second and getting more of an angle. A golden rule for backside off takeoffs and any rotation off a takeoff is you want to try hold the most gradual angle for as long as possible. So if you're going and increasing the angle of your snowboard right here at the spoon of the jump, that's going to increase your sideways momentum. So let's go a few frames forward and we'll see the ramifications of this. So I'm coming in and getting on my toe edge, and right here you can see the problem. My upper body is now set slightly away from my snowboard. This is going to trigger a little bit of extra toe pressure and not let me stay as tall over top. If you're not as tall over top, what's going to happen? More pressure on the toes, and it's going to lead to leaning. So here, leaning, 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 and it's making it so in this position right here, we can really start to see that my upper body is really far away from the base of my snowboard. It doesn't seem like too big of a difference, but it really is significant. We can also see another thing, and this absolutely blew my mind because I've been doing it my whole life, and that is winding up with the upper body. I always was under the impression that you want to make it so your backhand is visible from the back view, so you're trying to get it as over here as possible. But what I've noticed with these pros and the best riders in the world is they're actually doing a lot smaller of a motion. They're letting their arm come out straight and they're not overextending it. This is for a couple of reasons. The main one being, if you go and pull your shoulder too much, it's going to cause it to slightly close off. And if your shoulder's closing and you're over rotating your upper body, it's going to make it so you start crunching your side right here. And this is happening, and the reason why I'm doing this is because of a whole reason I base my spins around, and I was basing my spins around throwing the arms and setting it to the angle of the takeoff. So right here, you can see that my arms are down, shoulders are down, and my board's perfectly angled with the takeoff. But this is actually a misconception that I've had. How you actually generate power on these spins is by utilizing your hips. So here we can see that because I have a bigger arm motion and I'm snapping, it's going to make it so I have a larger duration that I'm throwing my upper body, and this is going to make it hard to sync up for the lower body. Compared to here, check this out. Look at how slow of a snap with the upper body it is. And then at this point right here, going and pulling through and pushing with the hips all the way. This pushing with the hips and pulling is letting him get into this position, what's crucial for these big spins. And that is head looking towards the bottom at a 270. For anyone doing like a 360 or anything, this isn't what you want to do. You want to be doing a 360 almost like a back one, like almost no rotation. This is going to be for like a backside 720 off of a small jump, backside 1080 off of a small jump. Basically, this is for some of the biggest spins in the world, so this is as exaggerated as you'll ever see it, unless he's doing an even bigger trick. But we can really see the differences in form here where I'm rounding, getting thrown down away from a snowboard versus being over top, like a little bit of pre-spin, but pre-spin doesn't matter because they're maintaining such a flat base off a takeoff and staying so stacked over the board, it's not going to cause any drifting. The main reason we're trying to not lean is because it's going to make it so we throw down and because it causes drift. So if you go pre-spinning isn't really a big issue. It's one of those things that everyone thinks it's a big issue, but if it isn't impacting your actual maximum height and maximum power, it's not going to be too negatively effective. And then this is going to be a very niche one, but I actually noticed something that's a really big deal on backside spins, and that is the head positioning right here. See here how I'm letting my head stay in a neutral position, calm and relaxed? these pros are immediately pulling their head in while keeping their shoulders squared. This is letting them go and immediately channel that rotational energy throughout the duration of their spin, and that's going to let it stay a lot more connected. Here we have a comparison between my 10 and the form, and let's actually go back because this is really interesting. My form is actually really similar here, so we can see that a similar hand position, but what do we see? Butt's further out, chest is further forward. Look at, he's going and pushing his hips back, but keeping his upper body here, staying a little more stacked. I am a little bit taller, so this is going to play into the effects, but we can really see that I'm aggressive on my heel edge right here before the spoon of the jump, where he's very light on his heel edge. So it's not just a size difference, it's a technique difference. And look at how much more angle I have on my board right here. You want a little bit of angle of your board towards that right corner because it's going to increase your turn radius, making it so it's harder to drift. If you go straight from heel edge to toe edge, you're going to be able to come off completely straight. So having this little bit of angle towards the corner of a jump really lets you smooth it out. But the less angle you have, the slower you can do the transition and the less G-force you have. So he has this angle right here, and he'll be able to just gradually change it all the way up, maintain a straight line without having nearly as much sideways momentum. Because look at how fast I traverse with a spoon. I'm all the way on the left, and boom, all the way to the right side with that big of a duration. Same duration of time, look at how little he's traversing across the slope. If you're traversing across the slope while switching edges like this, it's going to be impossible not to be leaned forward. Arm positioning, you can really see over-wrapping, getting that shoulder going, and that's going and compromising my side. I'm actually really happy with like this posture and everything, but look at how this back arm sort of pulled back. I think this is pushing past that effective range of motion, and you're starting to get diminishing returns and actually negative results. Think about like trying to go and throw a punch or something athletic, but you're not trying to go and fully hyperextend your body and then utilize it. Instead, you want to stay in that pocket of momentum. I was like more power, more wind up, so I've been trying to go and really max this, but I've taken it too far to the extreme. And this is making it so the timing is much harder, so it's way harder to use the hips. Here, you can see that I have my upper body preemptively rotating a lot better. This is a change I went and made to my riding and started implementing, and the power that it unlocked is ridiculous. I'm doing like backside 1260s with around 30% strength, where before they were taking me like 70 to 80% strength. So this grinding and using the hips to pull through, absolute game changer for power. Like I can't stress enough, it is ridiculous. And then the big difference here is check out this head positioning. My head's here, same spot, same shoulder position basically. Arms are a little bit lower for me, can change that. But look at how his head goes and pulls in, boom. So I'm right here looking straight, not seeing anything. What this is doing is it's delaying my access of my cork. So this is making it so I can't dip into the cork until right here at 650. And because of this, I'm now in a downward access. And this is one of the niche things that you don't really notice until you're doing bigger spins. If you delay your flip axis too long after the first rotation, your momentum's going to shift to downward. And we really want our momentum to be set upward when doing these spins. So see here how he's pulling up and around. Upwards, easier to spot, lets you constant spot. Downward is sort of dippy and it's going to get you into this weird axis that doesn't really have you come in. So that's a rule. If you feel yourself dipping into your rotations, it might not be what you're looking for, because you really want to get that lifting feeling that gives you time to go and slow down and get into the landing with maximum control. Dip is a little bit loose. And just, he's able to go and take this almost exact same form, turn it from 16 to 18 to 19 with almost no issue. And that's really what I'm looking for out of my riding, is the ability to use a very wide area of technique in order to go and get very similar results on multiple different tricks. Here we have a cool one. We have my cab spin and my front side spin. And you'll notice that they are ridiculously different. So on the right here is my cab dub 12, and on the left here is a front 14. I was not trying to do these dub, but because this jump's so kicky and so much pop, if your technique's a little bit off, it's going to really get you to flip. That's why I've been noticing so many problems with my technique, because this jump really makes them apparent. So first things first, let's go and break down the in run. So I'm coming in with pretty similar position, but there's a couple things I really can notice here already. First, on the cab, I'm coming in with a little heel side angle, and I'm more bent with my upper body forward. So this is making it so we have our center of mass not as evenly stacked over the board. Where my toe edge, because I'm not switch, I'm more casual and I'm riding in. I'm also having my hips be a little bit open here, just not as stiff, more relaxed coming in. This is letting me go and hold a more gradual amount of edge pressure. So see how I slightly increase the bend, but not much. And now I have a little bit of edge pressure going through here. The reason why you see me on my toe edge in this bent down position is actually a really cool fundamental principle I learned about frontside that's really helped a lot. And that is, you want to have your toe edge position as similar to your heel edge position as possible. So watch what happens when I fast forward here. My toe edge position is almost exactly the same as my heel edge. This makes it so as I'm doing my wind up, I don't need to add any up and down motions, and that lets me just do a slight hip shift to get from toe edge to heel edge. The goal for spinning frontside off a jump is to spin it as much like hard way as possible, because we want to keep our weight as over top of our snowboard as possible. If you're spinning as if you're doing hard way but coming off your heels, it's going to keep you really over there. And we're also trying to angle our board towards this corner. Ideally, you're like not drifting at all or even anti-drifting. So if you go and get onto your edge too soon, start opening too soon and start curving off this way, it's going to lead to drifting. And it's that drifting isn't too problematic by itself, but it really leads into leaning. And when you're leaning and trying to put a lot of power into a spin, it's going for all of your axis rotation, hence cab dub 12 instead of perfect flat front 14. So let's go and break this down in a little more detail, because this is something I really want to get figured out. So first things first, toe edge quite a bit sooner. I've really been realizing that you can't get on your preemptive edge too soon. If you're doing backside, get on that heel edge as soon as possible. If you're doing frontside, get on that toe edge as soon as possible. The sooner you're on it, the more gradual the angle. And not only that, we'll talk about this a bit more, but use a little bit more bend to initiate that turn. So that way you don't need to rely on leaning. Leaning is a killer for any rotation at any level, and we want to take it out of a riding as much as possible. So here, leaning forward, chest more forward, because I'm late on the toes, it's making it so I need to accelerate that toe edge. And look at how much I'm getting on that toe edge right here. This is a very compromised position, and it's going to create a lot of sideways momentum. Creating the sideways momentum makes it so when I go and swap to my heel edge, I'm going to use more heel edge pressure in to make sure that I stop slipping. The more sideways momentum, the more counterbalance motion you need to make. And this counterbalance motion isn't being fully effectively done by me, and that's why the board continues sliding across the slope to the left. Watch on the left here. See how I hold traction and my edge holds a straight line pretty much the whole way up. Where on the right for the cab spin, I'm getting onto my heel edge and my board continues to slide just a little bit. What this does is it puts my board all the way over here and my upper body over here. We're seeing this a little bit on the left, but it's playing within inches and margins here from okay, good enough to excellent. And we want to be aiming for perfection, excellence, and that way if we fail, we're still getting good enough. Where here, my technique's maximum is good enough, so that's going to vary from good enough to bad. And bad usually results in a bad time, so that's why we want to go and get as close to perfection and as many principles needed for perfection as possible, so that way even if we mess up one aspect, it's still good enough. And then the biggest problem that I've noticed on the cab spins here is watch my arms. See how my arms are going and starting to throw the spin at the same time as my hips. So I'm doing everything together. Hips, upper body, core, it's all being all at once. But how you actually generate power on a snowboard is through chaining motions together. So let's go and pay our attention to the left here. So I'm coming in, arms wound up, and look at how patient I am with the arms. Hips rotating, shoulders rotating, arms lagging behind. And once I get closer to the takeoff, I start snapping. This is making it so I can get my full range of extension, channel my full energy, and not be overextended. Where here, my upper body is starting to wrap around my lower body. And the reason why this is problematic is because it's going to go and put me into this position right here. If you go combined with the board coming out, so that's why it's hyper exaggerated, but if you go and throw your upper body too far past your lower body, it's going to change the angle from being up. See how this is throwing me upwards, neutral, towards down, because as you go and throw and keep accelerating, it's going to go and turn that up angle into a down angle. Think about doing a 180 versus a 360. If you do a 180 off your tail, it's going to make it so you land, switch on your tail. Same principle here. If you go and rotate your upper body too much from an up angle, it's going to turn into a down angle after 180. And that's why we're getting this super corked spin, because of two reasons. I'm leaning off the takeoff because I had too much sideways momentum. I'm throwing my upper body, core, and hips all at the same time, making it so I over rotate and overextend to keep that momentum going. And that's making it so I'm throwing downwards, causing this flip. So how do we fix this? We go more gradual on the toe edge, more slight, get onto that heel edge, relaxed and patient. Then this is going to be what's going to be hard to train and something I'm going to need to go and work off the mountain on. I need to practice going and throwing my hips, throwing my upper body, then leading with the arms. You could go and band-aid fix this by making it so you just throw later, making it so it's harder to overextend, but that's not going to be a permanent fix because we want to make it so our body mechanics make it impossible to go and make mistakes. Obviously, that's very hard to achieve, but that's the goal. And the results are significant. Dub 12 versus flat 14, and it's only those minor mistakes. This is perhaps the best backside rotation I've ever seen in my life, and it's something I've just been obsessing with, just looking at it so much. It is a work of art on every possible level. When people go and say airbagging makes things easy, airbagging does not make things easy, but it does make it possible to achieve the highest level of like physical feats. Probably the X Games 2360 or whatever was a little bit more technically impressive and perfect than this, but this is just so beautiful and so amazing. So why is this rotation so good and so consistent? First, look at how nice and wide the heel edge is coming in. Look at how constant the angle is all the way. The board doesn't accelerate or anything, it's just holding the soft angle. Look at how tall over top of his board is as well, going from a heel edge to neutral position with almost no change in body posture. Then look at how slow he switches to that toe edge. And as he switches to his toe edge, he extends, and this is really important for getting these winds up, pushes out his hips, otherwise known as flexing the glutes. I also push out my hips like this, but because I'm coming in with more edge pressure and more angle and not over top of my board, it's making it so it's more compromised and it's just loading too much pressure onto that edge. And that's something that really is making this the next level takeoff. Look at how much edge pressure he's able to hold while staying stacked over his board. I'm way more flat based here, yet my takeoff is way more leaned. So he's actively going and pushing his hips so far forward while keeping a little bit of bend in his knee. That's letting him keep this tall, straight body. And as he's keeping this tall body, I want to go and point out one more thing. He's not overwinding his back arm. Look at how relaxed that is. His arms are not doing anything extra, they're not looking strained. This is because he knows and is fully utilizing the power of the hips. And look at this chain motion. Arms start throwing, core starts throwing, driving with the hips, leaving off completely tall and owning the jump, where I'm coming in and dipping under. Let's go and play this whole thing through. And that's only on a 1260 online, so he's holding like a decent amount of bend. We don't need fully extended legs in order to get this rotation. What's something that is new to me. I thought the straighter the legs were better because more range of motion, but he's keeping his legs relatively tall. So tall here, and watch this. He goes and bends them down while keeping his balance and then goes and pops more. This is something that I still don't have my head wrapped around. I go and add the bend into my legs and then keep that bend into a straight extension. I'm not really adding any more bend. So I'm not too sure why he's doing that, but I'm sure there's a really good mind-blowing reason behind it. And then look at this head, drive with the shoulders, drive with the hips, everything connected, and lifting the chest up. This is where I really need to get better, is I'm still throwing my arms down towards the tail of my snowboard. See how my arms are down here? My body's sort of twisted, my legs aren't fully extended, compared to this, completely tall, completely strong, and this is letting him get this axis rotation thrown upwards. Goes, pulls it all together, and instantly pulls that head into the spot. So here, we're at a similar time of rotation. He rotated a little bit faster than me because he's doing a 1900, I'm only doing a 1260, but see how my head is lagging behind, where his head is already ready to pull into the spin? This is so important because he's going to take this head and pull it around, making his rotation go more spinny instead of flippy, where my head is still lagging behind, and that makes it so I'm not pulling it into right here at 650, and that's causing the dunk. he's also going and doing a little bit of a dunk, but he has a whole 360 on me. So if I went and managed to get this technique down, pull it and snap it through like this, get that 180 pulled, then I'd be able to use the same technique in order to do a perfect 1600. And that's going to be the key for me to unlock, and the only way I can do it is by fixing these takeoffs. We'll go back to the start and just talk about this. So what have I learned from this airbending experience so far? I've learned that the changes you need to make are micro, and you're not as far away as you think. I have a student here, we've been working together, Ben, and in 5 days, we've got him from doing sketchy 360s to doing really solid backside 7s, just by addressing one mistake at a time, going and fixing one thing, and the thing we're doing is trying to build up the room for error, making it so even when he doesn't do his best technique, doesn't do things perfectly, it still results in a land. The more lands you make, the safer it is. So I'm just going to go quick and point out the most important things that I've learned during this time. First, preemptively getting onto your edge. When I'm doing this, I'm also taking my hand and really actively pulling it to my hip. I'm trying to get my whole hips and everything over. You can't see it here, but a little bit earlier in this line, oh yeah, you can see it now. My hand is literally on my glute, getting everything into that angle, trying to get my whole board into that angle. So bent down and so early. The earlier you bend, the faster you'll be able to go and get into your tall position and the more relaxed. So we wanted to use this aggressive heel side approach, getting our hips open, chest open, and everything angled towards the corner of the jump. This is true for frontside as well, but not as important because you're not doing as big of a wind-up motion. Then you want to transition your edge through a spoon, and as you do it, you need this little section of flat baseness with your board angled to the corner. This increases your turn radius, making the whole process way easier. Then you want to go and hit your wind up. And as you're winding up, you want to make it so, see here, his hand's already here, then he just naturally lifts them. So he's actually hardly doing any twist, maybe like 5-10% of twisting. Instead, he has his arms preemptively in this position. And this is one of the most important principles I've learned this year snowboarding. The more you can get your body preemptive in the position you want to be for the snap, the more power and smoothness and consistency you'll have on the snap. So his arms were already down here. See how his arms were pretty much in the same spot? He just lifted them up. From there, he doesn't have his momentum getting thrown off. He can stay light over his edge and pulling through. And then the thing I really want you to train this summer and really think about is letting your arms throw lightly and then driving the shoulders, and then your maximum point of power is right here, driving the hips, because that's going to let you get your upper body more rotated. And when you're doing these big spins, you really can't rotate your upper body too much off the lip. And this is going to take some body dynamics to not get clumsy. You can see I'm sort of like a little bit stiff and a little bit jockey. Like we don't quite have that range of motion unlocked yet. Then from there, you want to make sure that you're going and pulling your head in a lean rotation with your head while not letting it dip down towards the arms. You want it to be completely centered. Your axis rotation should be set off the takeoff. You shouldn't be changing it too much in the air unless you need to make an adjustment in order to hit the landing. So pulling the head and leading with it without going and dunking it, getting this across motion. But really just focus on those takeoffs, focus on being smooth, and if you can do that, it's going to make your spins way more powerful than anything you've ever had before. And even if you're just doing 180s, 360s, these setup cars and these approaches and these principles are just an absolute game changer. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll be back at it with more progression in another video soon. Have a good one.